Hey everybody, this is Doomhammer with part 3 of the offseason, the 2015 retirements. As you can see on the screen, we have some big names coming off the league with Troy Polamalu, Daryl Smith from Pittsburgh retiring, Vernon Carey, Andre Johnson, Kerry Rhodes, Ben Watson for Cleveland, Mike Doss for the Houston Texans, the Rocky McIntosh from the Tennessee Titans, then Frank Gore from Jacksonville along with Chris Hansen, Wes Welker from the Jets. We see Lee Charles Bentley and Stuart Schweigert, for Miami, the Super Bowl champions. Dwight Freeney with Minnesota. Jonathan Vilma, Antonio Gates with the San Diego Chargers. And then Tyson Clabo with the Bears. Jeff Reed as the Atlanta Falcons kicker. Nnamdi Asomugha with the Giants. Chris Jenkins with the Rams. And then Justin Smith with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I've never done this before, but because I decided, you know what, screw it, let's have some fun with it, I'm going to break down some of, not all of, the different careers of the players who have retired. First off, we've got Frank Gore, who spent 5 seasons with the 49ers. In his 6th season, he was traded mid-season to the Philadelphia Eagles. Then he was there for 4 years. And then he finished his career with a season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. As you can see, he won 2 Super Bowls, one with the 49ers, one with the Eagles. He went to the NFC Championship game with the 49ers. He rushed for 1,423 rushes, 9,034 rush yards, 95 TDs, almost 100, 157 rec yards, 100, almost about 1,450 rec yards, 12. And then he had no Pro Bowl appearances, which is crazy. I thought he would have gotten it. It's not 7. It's not out of 12. It's out of 10. But he's been to 7 playoffs over his career. So interesting kind of trajectory of Frank Gore's career. In real life, he played a lot longer, almost like twice as long. He had decided to retire in my franchise, so I decided to allow it. I think in real life, he almost had like 16,000 rushing yards. So I guess in real life, he did better than in my franchise. Then we've got Andre Johnson, the other big name, retiring this season. In real life, he retired after the 2016 season, but he only had 85 yards in that year anyway, so it didn't really matter. But in my franchise, he had 13,569 receiving yards, 606 receptions, 127 touchdowns. So he had 2 Super Bowl victories with the New England Patriots. He never made the playoffs with the Cardinals, where the team he was drafted to 3rd overall. He did make 4 Pro Bowls with them, and he never made a Pro Bowl after that because he was kind of sharing receptions in New England. They made 4 playoff appearances and 2 Super Bowl victories, and even in Cleveland, he helped them get to the playoffs and even win a playoff game. Now, in real life, he had 14,185 yards, so about 600 shy of his real life, but then he had 70 receiving touchdowns. I had 127. So he was much more touchdown worthy in my franchise than he was in real life. He had a lot fewer receptions, and I realized I don't have as many receptions as real life. So Andre's career is 606 in my franchise, and he had 1,062 receptions in real life. So I anticipate that my touchdowns are probably going to be more inflated than real life wide receivers and tight ends. And then my receptions are going to be lower than typical. But here's the career of Andre Johnson, which, he had a lot of 1,000-yard seasons, receiving, really just a dynamic player, and he will definitely be missed. Then we got Wes Welker, and I realized that actually Andre Johnson played 2 extra seasons than in my franchise. I was reading Pro Football wrong, but we have Welker, who played 1 extra season because he played the 2014 season, then the 2015 season, then retired. In my franchise, as you can see, he played with the Colts, and he won 2 Super Bowls with the Colts, then the Denver Broncos, and then he had about 3 seasons with the New York Jets, accumulating 9,305 receiving yards, 455 receptions, and 80 touchdowns. So in his real life, he had about 9,924. So about 600 shy and 2 fewer seasons. He had 50 touchdowns. I've got 80 touchdowns. So, of course, he was much more of a touchdown receiver in my franchise. His receptions were 903. And so I almost had half of that, about. And then he had 7 playoff appearances, 4 with the Colts. You have 1 with the Broncos, 2 with the Jets, and he made 1 Pro Bowl when he was with the Denver Broncos. So there's the career of Wes Welker in a glance. Now we've got Antonio Gates. In real life, he was undrafted, but in my franchise, he was picked in the 6th round on the 21st selection. So he still was drafted, but drafted late. He had 12 seasons, where in reality, he had like 4 more years in real life than in my franchise. And as you can see, he had 523 receptions, 9,900 yards, 95 TDs, 6 Pro Bowl appearances in 12 seasons, and then 10 playoff berths with the Chargers. Basically missed just the first 2 seasons. That was like the Drew Brees, Schottenheimer era. And once it was Sean Payton, it was playoffs every year. Unfortunately, like in real life, he never made the Super Bowl, so that's unfortunate to see. But yeah, in real life, he had 11,841 yards, about 3,000 more-ish, maybe a little less than 3,000. Yeah, a little less than 3,000. And then his touchdowns were 116. I only had 95 for him. And then receptions, he had 955. I had 523. But anyway, that's the career of Antonio Gates. Then we've got the career of Ben Watson, a tight end. He was drafted in real life by the Patriots, and he went to Cleveland, New Orleans, Baltimore, back to New England near the end. He played 4 extra years in real life than in my franchise, so he retired a bit earlier. But in my franchise, he was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, going number 25 overall. As you can see, he later went to Cleveland, and he retired as a Cleveland Brown. So he had 47 touchdowns, 7,300 yards, and 379 receptions. In real life, he had 547 receptions, so I'm less than he did in real life. However, his yards in real life was 6,058 in 15 years. So in 11 seasons, I had more receiving yards than his career in real life by almost 1,300. And then touchdowns, he had 47 touchdowns. I had 47 touchdowns. So 4 fewer seasons and more touchdowns, more yards. He went to 4 Pro Bowls in my franchise, and he made the playoffs 4 times. Twice with the Browns, which is crazy. And then 2 times with the Buffalo Bills. And now for something I've never done before, which is really keep track of defensive player stats. So I still haven't kept track of all of them, but I decided to cherry pick the retired people and the ones I liked. So Troy Polamalu had 12 seasons. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks with the 14th overall selection in 2003. Played with the Seahawks for multiple seasons before getting traded for a first-round pick by the Cleveland Browns when they made a playoff push. And as you can see, he made the playoffs 1 year with the Cleveland Browns. And then he played 1 season with the Steelers and didn't really see the field. Now, in comparison to his Madden play versus his real life play, it's all very similar. So Polamalu retired this year. So it was the same season in real life as it was in my franchise, and his stats stack up. So it says there he has 792 tackles in my franchise. He had a combined 783 tackles in real life. So he made 9 more tackles in my franchise. Now, sacks, he had none in my franchise. And looking at his list, he had 12 in real life. So he never was the safety in my franchise that was making tackles. Making sacks, excuse me. Not really much tackling behind the lines. Now, interceptions in his real life career, he had 32 interceptions. So I was exact on somehow. So 32 in both real life and franchise. I'm not seeing, deflections. I don't really see PDs. Okay. So he had 107 in real life. I had 95. Forced fumbles, he had about 14, I believe. Yeah, he had 14 forced fumbles and 7 recoveries. In my franchise, he had 10 forced fumbles, no recoveries. And so I never scored a touchdown or any sort of safety with him. But let's see. In his real life, he had 3 interception touchdowns and 2 fumble recover touchdowns. So he had some probably more of a dynamic career in real life. He also never made a Super Bowl. So in my franchise, I think he won, or in real life, he won 2 of them and went to 3. Whereas in my franchise, he never touched the Super Bowl. Just 4 playoff appearances with the Seahawks, 1 with the Cleveland Browns, and that's been it. So kind of a good career. I mean, one that you wouldn't roll your eyes at, but also not the same as his real life. Then we've got Mike Doss, the safety out of Ohio State. In real life, he only played 6 years, with 4 with the Colts, 1 with the Vikings, 1 with the Bengals, and then he was out. In my franchise, he was with the Houston Texans for 12 years. And as you can see, he amounted 781 tackles, which far surpasses his 276 in real life. I had 1.5 sacks, and his real life was 1 sack, so 0.5 better. Hell yeah. Interceptions, I had 40 in his career, and then in real life he had 7, so 40 interceptions to 7 interceptions. Deflections, 95. In real life he had 18. Forced fumbles, 3 and 3, whereas in real life he had 6 forced fumbles, but no fumble recoveries. And then he made 1 Pro Bowl, he had 1 touchdown, and he made 3 playoff appearances, and was part of that Super Bowl winning team in 2003-2004 for the Houston Texans. Another player that you might not have heard of was Stuart Schweigert. Now, Schweigert in real life played 5 seasons, 4 with the Oakland Raiders and 1 with the Detroit Lions. However, in my franchise, he actually made a Pro Bowl for the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I drafted him 3rd round, 22nd overall pick to the Oakland Raiders, and then he played 2 seasons for them before going to the Dolphins. And this was a guy that kept pissing me off by picking me off. So he had 19 interceptions as a Miami Dolphin, 22 in his career. In real life, he had 4 interceptions in his 5 seasons. Then sacks, I had 1 with him. In real life, he never had a sack. Tackles, he had 325 in real life. He had 624 in my franchise. Deflections, 67. In my franchise, he had 21. So again, 6 playoff appearances, a Super Bowl championship, and a AFC championship. So 2 appearances to the Super Bowl. Stuart Schweigert being a top solid safety, and he was someone that did not have a high overall. He just played really well on the field, so I wanted to give him a quick shout out as he retires and hangs up his jersey, a Super Bowl champion. Then we've got Kerry Rhodes, the safety. He was the 5th round, 1st overall pick in the 2005 draft. This was the year they got Alex Smith 1st overall. Now, Kerry Rhodes in real life, he was like a superstar player in Madden a long time ago, like Madden 2008. He was young, he was good, he was talented. He played 3 years for the Cardinals afterwards, so 8 total seasons. Looks like it was 5 with the Jets, 3 with the Cardinals. In my franchise, he started with the Jets, played with them for 9 years out of his career, or maybe 8 years, and then ended up going to the Cleveland Browns when they went to the playoffs last year, was a veteran safety for them. And comparing his real life to his other stats, 490 tackles in his real life, 546 in my franchise. He did get, his sacks was 13. I only had 2. I guess the CPU may not run a lot of safety blitzes. So like Polamalu, Doss, Schweigert, Rhodes probably don't have a lot of sacks. Now, I had 22 interceptions in my franchise. He ended up having 23 in his real life. So he picked off 1 more interception in real life than Madden, which is nice to see that I've played a little bit more, 2 more seasons in my franchise than his real life, and it shows that he still had a really good career in real life. Deflection, 67. His deflections were 75. And he made the Pro Bowl. He never made the Pro Bowl. Ignore that graphic there. He did have 2 touchdowns, and then he made the playoffs 5 times. Then we've got the old man, Dwight Freeney. He started with the Indianapolis Colts in my franchise because he was there in 2002. He was a rookie when I started my franchise. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Indianapolis Colts, those back-to-back Super Bowls. In real life, he played all the way till 2017, so that's about 3 seasons more in real life than he did in my franchise. So I had more tackles, so I had 382. He had 350 tackles. He had 125.5 sacks in real life. Only 81.5 in my franchise. So that's interesting. So he had a lot more in his career than I did. Interesting. And then no interceptions. I think in his real life he never had an interception. No, he did not. Then 53 tackles for losses. I don't even think that's... Yeah, and then he had 128 in real life, so he had a lot more productivity, I guess, in real life than my franchise. 12 forced fumbles and 7 fumble recoveries in my franchise. And he had 47 forced fumbles in his career in real life and 4 fumble recoveries. So I got 3 more fumble recoveries than he did in real life. And then I don't see any touchdowns. He had 1 fumble recovery touchdown in his career and 1 safety in his career. Neither happened in my franchise. He only made the Pro Bowl twice. There were a lot of competition with the defensive ends, but made the playoffs 10 out of his 14 seasons in my franchise. Still quite a legend. Solid defensive end there. And near the end of his career, he went to the Vikings, had some decent success with them, that 1 playoff appearance. But other than that, there you go. The career of Dwight Freeney. Then we've got the real life All-Pro, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Pro Bowler Jonathan Vilma. In real life, he was with the Jets and the Saints for about 10 seasons. So in my franchise, it looks like he played 1 more year than in real life. And so he had 799 tackles, which in real life he had 879. We had 5.5 sacks, which was not very much technically. And then in real life, he had 10.5, but I guess that's only 5 different. Interesting. Interceptions, though, he had 12 in real life. I had 17 in my franchise. Deflections, 56. Let's see, deflections, 40. So I had more pass deflections with Vilma. 41, that's tackles for a loss. And he had 43. So he had 2 more in real life than in my franchise. Then forced fumbles, 9. In real life, he had 11. And then he had 10 recoveries. I had 5. No touchdowns for Vilma, even though in real life he had 2 interception touchdowns and 1 fumble recovery. 2 Pro Bowls in my franchise. It looked like he had 3 in his real life. He has been with the San Diego Chargers his entire career, unfortunately never making a Super Bowl just like Gates. But Vilma still very solid as a top-tier linebacker in this franchise, and it's going to be sad to see him go. Then we've got kind of a lesser-skilled player here. This is Rocky McIntosh. So McIntosh in real life played 8 years. Most of them were with the Washington Redskins and then the St. Louis Rams for 1 year and the Detroit Lions for 1 year. He was done when he was 31. He played 1 extra season in my franchise than in real life. He started out being drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and he had 136 tackles. But then his career kind of declined a little bit. It was more of a kind of a backup role. Hovered around that 68 overall to like 72, 73 overall. I guess in real life he had 533 tackles. He had 254 in my franchise. Now as for sacks, he had 9 in real life and he had 13.5 in mine. And a lot of those came with the Cleveland Browns. As you see, 12 sacks in his career in Cleveland. You got 12 there. Then 1 interception. In real life, he had 4. Deflections, he had 10 in my franchise. He had 19 in real life. He had 15 tackles for loss in my franchise and 21 in real life. 4 and 4 for fumbles forced and recovered. In his real life, he had 8 fumbles forced and 1 fumble recovery. Then no touchdowns, no Pro Bowls, and then playoffs were 2. Actually, I think he might have went to 1 Pro Bowl. I must have missed that because I really thought he made it 1 year. But then playoffs, he made 2 out of his 9 seasons in the league. Then we've got the All-Pro safety, Nnamdi Asomugha. In real life, he played for the Raiders for, I think, almost 8 years. 2 years with the Eagles, part of that made-up dream team that they try to form. And then San Francisco his last year. He played 1 more year in my franchise than in real life. Now, for tackles, he had 408 in real life, 518 in mine. He was drafted by the Packers in mine and played many seasons in Green Bay before going to the New York Giants, where he played 2 seasons with them, not making the playoffs at all. Now, as you can see, he had 0 sacks in my franchise, and of course, in real life, he had 2, so I was down by 2. Interceptions, he had 36 in my franchise. He only had 15 in real life, but he was a very good shutdown cornerback. As for deflections, he had 79 in real life. He had 104 in my franchise. He had 9 tackles for losses in my franchise, and he had 24 in real life. He had 1 touchdown for me. He had 1 touchdown in real life and 1 interception return. 3 Pro Bowls in my franchise with Green Bay and 3 playoff appearances with Green Bay. He's still a shutdown cornerback, one of the best in the league. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to really go far into a Super Bowl or anything like that. But to be fair, he never did that in his real life either. But Nnamdi Asomugha, the career of the Green Bay and New York Giant cornerback, is now in the books, and he is retired. Then we've got the career of Justin Smith. He was with the Bengals most of his career in real life, then the San Francisco 49ers. Now, in my franchise, he went to 3 different teams. He started off with the Bengals for about a decade. Then he went 1 season to the Broncos. Then he went to 2 seasons with the Cardinals. And the first year he was there in Arizona, they won the Super Bowl. So he is a Super Bowl champion. He made multiple Pro Bowls in his career. As you can see, I forgot to update the Pro Bowls and playoffs, but he made 6 Pro Bowls as a Bengal, 3 playoff appearances with the Bengals, 1 with Denver, and then 2 with Arizona. He had 498 tackles in his career, whereas in real life he had almost, not double it, but close to a little less than double it, 884 tackles. He had 124 sacks in my franchise, and in real life, his sacks were 87. So he had a lot more sacks. He hit the quarterback so much more in my franchise than in real life. He had 6 interceptions in my franchise, and he had 3 in his real life. But I made Justin Smith into a linebacker with the Bengals because they switched to a 3-4 because I had the personnel for it. So he started playing more linebacker. And so that's where he was a really tough linebacker to block and defend when he was playing the outside. And then he got some interceptions. He got his hand on the ball a few times. As you can see, he has 20 pass deflections in real life. He ended up having 30 of those. So I guess he had more in real life. 84 tackles for a loss. In real life, he had 119. So did better in that category in real life. Forced fumbles, he had 16 in real life and 10 fumble recoveries. I had 19 and 5. So he had more recoveries in real life and I had more forced. And then his career was pretty solid. He was the 4th overall pick. I never drafted him. He was a second-year person in my franchise. And let's just say he has had a pretty fun career to follow. He is someone that when I get sacked by him, I knew who he was, and he made an impact, and so much so that he helped the Arizona Cardinals win a Super Bowl. Then we've got the career of Chris Jenkins, who's been like a 90 overall DT almost the entire time until he started to decline. And honestly, I thought his stats were going to be better when I was organizing them, but he is a big man in the front that kind of stuffs the run and causes havoc. But he was always seemed to be more valuable overall wise than I guess his statistical impact. And I guess that's the same in real life. I guess he played 14 seasons for me and he played 10 seasons in real life. Started with the Panthers, as you saw in 2001. He did make the Super Bowl, but he lost the Super Bowl. I had 314 total tackles. In his real life, he had 282. I had 42.5 sacks with Chris Jenkins. In real life, he only had 24. He had 1 interception. I don't remember how the hell that happened, but he does not have an interception in real life. He had 4 pass deflections, which he had 11 in real life, so I guess he probably swatted more at the line than he did in my franchise. He had 58 tackles for a loss in real life, 67 in my franchise, 4 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries. In real life, he had he had 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. Forgot to also update the Pro Bowl playoff thing, but as you see, 2 Pro Bowls for him with the Panthers. He had 9 playoff appearances with the Panthers when they had the number 1 defense in the entire league for multiple seasons. He was part of that solid defense that was just making everybody's life terrible. And then the last season, they went 14-3 with the St. Louis Rams. He was part of that success where he was more of a second, third string kind of DT, providing veteran leadership. Michael Brockers, I believe, was one of them. That was kind of more of the starting St. Louis Ram DTs. And when he was in Oakland, that was kind of a classic Oakland signing. We're going to sign the old veteran that, like a Warren Sapp or someone like that that's past their prime. Classic Oakland move. But there you go, Chris Jenkins. And lastly, we've got Daryl Smith. Daryl Smith, in real life, was drafted to the Jaguars, played there for about a decade, then went to Baltimore for a few seasons, then Tampa, and was out. He played 2 more seasons in real life than in my franchise, but he had a very quality career in my franchise, was part of the Chicago Bears defense, which they were pretty well stacked before. However, they kind of didn't become the tough defense we all remember them as. And then he was there from 2004 to 2010, then went to Jacksonville for a season. As you see, had 29 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and then went to Pittsburgh for 3 years, in my franchise before deciding to retire. Now, he had 354 tackles in my franchise, whereas in real life, he had over 1,000. Then for interceptions, he had 12 in real life. I had 4. I had 27.5 sacks. He had 30.5 sacks. Then 19 deflections and 26 tackles for a loss in my franchise. For him, he had 69 pass deflections, and he had 78 tackles for a loss. Forced fumbles, 7 and 5. In real life, it was 15 and 7. He went to 2 Pro Bowls for Chicago, but he actually never made the playoffs, which was very interesting. Actually, just double checking, he did have 3 playoff appearances with the Chicago Bears. Yeah, that was the last graphic I made, and I was tired, so sue me. But he had a few playoff appearances. He wasn't completely out of the playoff picture. He also was able to go to the playoffs with Pittsburgh in 2013 and in 2012. He just missed the playoffs in this past season. So he made about 5 playoff appearances in his career, so excuse the graphic. But yeah, Darryl Smith, he was not as good as he was in real life, not by far, but he does decide to hang it up here in this franchise. So hope you like this video. Leave a like. I have never actually gone over the defensive stats like I've done this time, so hope you enjoyed that kind of a treat. But we'll get some more off-season content coming up.